Indeed. So, children were being coached on what to say to NHS doctors to get puberty blockers. Author of Bombshell Report into Trans Care reveals. And as you say, it's the final Cass report, Dr. Hilary Cass. It's pretty damning. It's a scathing 400-page dossier into NHS gender care, and every single page just says Glinner was right.
Yeah, basically. What I like about this stuff is there's always like a director's cut. You get these major bombshells, and then all of this even worse stuff comes out. And now it's that these people were coaching kids.
Yeah, and they were, in many, many cases, these were children who had a history of physical or sexual abuse. Up to 1 in 5 children who attended gender services, for example.
Yes.
And they're very much, instead of sort of saying, how can we help this person? It's more like gaming the system. Here's what you need to say to get the puberty blockers, which is insane.
I think it's amazing because a lot of the Cass revelations, a lot of the revelations we've seen in recent years about this stuff has shown that a lot of these kids require a therapeutic care because either they've been abused or they have internalised homophobia, they're struggling with their sexuality. And this is suggesting that those things they were told to keep them from the clinicians so that they could just rush through and get the drugs.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why I say Glinner was right, because Graham Linehan and some people kept our heads. People like you, people like me, hopefully this channel. But if you lost your common sense, you started to think, oh, yeah, we can do this to children. But anyone who got lost in that should be ashamed. The
whole premise, Steve, of gender-affirming care is that a child comes along and says, I think I'm in the wrong body, and you say, yes, you are. Here are the drugs. And, of course, that's precisely... I mean, the Labour government, the next Labour government and the current Tory policy is actually to ban that therapeutic approach, and they call that a ban on trans conversion therapy. But surely now with the Cass review, we can sort of get back to sort of just sensible, critical thinking and say, let's not medicalise kids on the basis of a pseudo-religious belief system in a gendered soul.
At least separating out the word conversion therapy, or the words conversion therapy and looking at it or having a conversation. The idea that if you can't even probe, if you're not allowed to ask questions. Before we get to that, though, I did like... And this... Imagine a situation where you say to a child, don't mention the abuse. Who have you just become?
Yeah, that's insane. Or don't mention that you're struggling with your sexuality, even though the Cass review has shown that over 80% of the kids referred to these services were either gay or bisexual, which means, of course, they're just effectively fixing, medicalising, sterilising gay kids.
Yeah, and so I didn't have time to read the whole 400-page report because I'm a slow reader, but there's like a 70-point summary and recommendations. And going through that, it is incredibly evenly handed, so it's not like you can read it and go, oh, this has taken one side. It attributes blame about the toxicity of the debate and how that shuts down things like being able to have a conversation about it. And it even points out, well, through the whole thing, the general theme is, if you've got no evidence, don't act.
Yes.
If you've got weak evidence, get more evidence. Don't proceed forwards without any sort of actual research or study into this. And that is the damning indictment left, right and centre.
We've had a complete... This was all unevidenced. There was no scientific basis for the notion of a gender identity ever at any point. But it did get toxic. She's absolutely right. What worries me is that now a lot of people are suggesting that those of us who were sounding the alarm and not, in fact, contributing that toxicity were an example of the toxicity. Because they saw any kind of disagreement. I mean, I think James O'Brien has suggested he was one of the ones who was trying to detoxify the debate. That's hilarious coming from him.
Yeah, I mean, that's appalling. I mean, to just say that if you tried to sound the alarm about basically abusing children, you were part of the toxicity. It's disgusting. But people will do this. They'll revise. It'll be like the lockdowns. They'll say, I was on the right side of this the whole time. We already saw BBC Newsnight the other night, and maybe they were better than the rest of mainstream media, but they're already saying, oh, yeah, you know, even the BBC got it wrong, but we got it right on this show. People will more and more start
The BBC not only got it wrong, they were responsible for pushing the gender identity ideology to children in children's programmes. There needs to be a look at the BBC and the way they've behaved in all of this. And likewise, I think there needs to be investigations into Stonewall, Mermaids, Gendered Intelligence, all of these groups that have pushed this toxic anti-gay ideology, which is effectively what it is.
Well, we're looking at the BBC, I will say, as someone who's got kids, they talk about diversity a lot, but on CBeebies, 41% of everyone you see is just that bloke Justin, who plays all those different characters.
Now, I don't even know that reference, but you're the one with the kids, so you would know.